Hey guys, Scott here with a new beer dissection video. Recently, depending on when you're watching this, I was delivered a treat, even though not delivered out of the blue. He told me he was going up there, or his wife was up there with their daughter in Massachusetts. But they went to, a friend of mine, they went to Treehouse Brewing Company, the famous Treehouse Brewing Company in Massachusetts. I think they have a place in Charlton. I think there's a couple of locations. So I'm getting like the freshest beer imaginable. A lot of the times the beer is very difficult to locate. Daughter was up there doing a lacrosse thing with Holy Cross. What do you call it? I should know better. But like a prospect day or something like that. And picked up from Treehouse the famous Julius, which is their flagship beer. And this one today is called Catharsis. It's their American porter. They really got some pretty looking cans. So you are interested in this brewery, you want to know a little bit more about their beers, take a look underneath my What Is style, depending on when I get these posted. If they're not going to be there when you watch this one, they're going to be there soon after. And take a look. Catharsis, which is this one. Green, which is either New England or American IPA. And their Julius, which is an American IPA. The Catharsis here is coming in at, I have it written down, 7.4% alcohol, the American porter. Let me show you the can again, even though I'm going to probably have it over my shoulder. And not too much more that they give you about they give you a little read down. I'm not going to read it all to you, but, Treehouse is very difficult. Like locally, I'm here on Long Island. They're obviously in Massachusetts. Like other breweries like Trillium, Equilibrium, not right around the corner. It's hit and miss whether I'm going to find it in my local beer store, depending on which store I go to, how fresh they're getting it, how often they're getting it. It's sometimes hard to get your hands on beers from Treehouse, as well as some of those other big boys. So I kind of find this as a nice special treat. All right, so again, not much more info on there other than being American porter. Let's evaluate this beer. Those of you who have had it, please, chime in at the bottom of my YouTube and or Facebook channel and let me know what you think about it. All right. So I'm going to use a typical tulip glass here. Even though you could use a tulip pint glass with a beer like this, because I want to try to evaluate. Again, I'm evaluating this most of my beers for the first time. So as I'm talking to you, I'm trying to evaluate it cold also. So I apologize if I'm going a little bit because I'm trying to think and pick up on what's going on with the beer. All right, so let's pour this bad boy out. Wow. Look at that. Okay, should actually probably pour it a little bit more aggressively so I can get a little bit of action on the head. All right. So let me do that there. Okay, so let's take a look at this. So I didn't pour it that aggressively. Most of my beers I'm pouring way too aggressively. I pour a little more aggressively. I get a little bit more head there. I only got about a quarter to a half an inch. Usually I want about 1 or 2 inches. But nice, light brown head. And again, it's almost like getting the lacing on the glass as I tip it. Here, I'm already getting it kind of. You can see that, right by my finger, the lacing that's already occurring. So there's nice, obviously I got a beer clean glass, thankfully, but also it's kind of hugging the side. So you kind of get in the fingers, almost like you would get in a wine glass, which is really nice. Okay, the color on this, I'm going to call it dark brown. Even though some people I'm not going to beat someone over the head if they say black. It is dark brown. It's still pretty clear. Okay, even though it is black, I could tell that there's not a lot of a little bit of opaqueness to it, adding to it, but it kind of looks very nice. It almost looks like you have a big glass of espresso sitting in a glass instead of in a little demi-tasse cup. So let's take a sniff of the aroma. Whoa, man. It's like you got cocoa powder in here. Chocolate. Like kind of cocoa powder. Dark chocolate. A little bit of roast. Maybe like a light coffee kind of roast. Kind of almost smells like you got like a mocha frappuccino or a cafe mocha. that you make, there's probably using copious amounts of chocolate malt, maybe, crystal malt, maybe some other brown malts. Wonderful though. Mostly got like chocolate pudding, cocoa powder, cocoa nibs. I don't know if they're using that. Again, I doubt they're using actual chocolate, but a lot of times, like Brooklyn Brewing Company does, they handle the grist perfectly to kind of give the illusion that you're drinking like chocolate or whatever it may be. But heavy chocolate aroma, cocoa powder, chocolate pudding, mousse, whatever way you want to say it. Really nice though. Slight burnt aroma to it, but definitely roast. If you want to say like nutty, like kind of roasted walnut, pinoli nut, even like a touch of toffee. So you kind of get a lot of those dark malt characteristics in this, just on the nose. Okay. Maybe there's a slight herbal component, but not much. Okay. I'm expecting this to be like most porters, very malt forward. Even though American porter usually has a little more bitterness than English porter. We'll see in a second. All right. So anyway, very good looking beer. So let's take a swig of this. Cheers. Prost. Wow. Wow. It's like dark chocolate, nuts, toffee, roasted nut, a little bit of coffee roast in there too, like a slight espresso roast, maybe not as bold as a, imperial stout, Irish stout, or foreign extra stout. A little bit like you, but there's on the mouthfeel, there's a little creaminess there. I'm not getting alcohol. What alcohol? I said it was 7.4%. I'm not getting the warmth. It usually hits at 7.5, so it's not like 0.10. I would all of a sudden get it. I probably wouldn't get it until it was probably at 8% in a beer like this. But it's almost like a little bit like dessert. There's not I shouldn't say dessert. It's not like it's a sweet stout, like with lactose, and you're getting, a dessert type of a residual sweetness to it. But it's like if you had a high quality chocolate fudge, chocolate ganache, and you mixed it with a little bit of cream, you kind of get that. To take the edge off some of the chocolate, sometimes the bitterness of the chocolate. Speaking of bitterness, there is a good pronounced bitterness here, which is good. It really complements the beer very well. You are getting that little, on the aftertaste, a little nuttiness. Name the nut, walnut, toasted walnut, pinoli nut, but definitely, or pecan, whatever you want to say, it kind of gives you a little bit of that toasted nut character. Slight dark fruit, like kind of like if you had a rum raisin type of thing, but it's definitely biased. Dark chocolate, roast coffee-like, but again, not to the point of, I'm not going to even say to the point of espresso-like. It's just kind of like just a dark, robust coffee. With the nut, it's pretty well attenuated too, meaning that there's not a lot of residual sweetness to it, which is good. It drinks a little bit drier, but really outstanding. Actually, when I got these beers from Treehouse, they're usually a little more biased towards IPAs these days. So I was like, let me do a flyer on this Catharsis, which is a porter. This is probably, the two I've reviewed so far, this is probably the better of the two, just as far as overall drinkability. Yeah, there's a little dark fruit there. The bitterness, again, is pronounced. Really good, guys. I mean, this is exceptional. Even I'm letting the aftertaste kick in a little bit. You're kind of left with the roast, the chocolate. Again, almost like you have a fudgy dessert, but again, not cloyingly sweet, like as far as fudge or chocolate, but because it's not, you don't get that bitterness of the chocolate bite. Like sometimes you take really dark, high cacao percentage chocolate, you kind of get that bitterness to it. You don't have that with this. It's just, but there is enough roast chocolate that really is great. I haven't done pairings in a lot of my videos recently, but something like this, I would actually take over an imperial stout or a sweet stout at dessert. I think this would be great if you had some of this left over and you're eating like panna cotta or creme brulee, and you had a little bit of like the chocolate notes from this, fudgy notes to it, but not overly sweet. So, even the sweetness that you would get in those desserts may even bring the sweetness of this down a little bit, the perception of it, and just be a great complement to that type of dessert. And the chocolate can kind of, even those tarts that have like a little like it looks like a pudding. Again, I'm not a dessert major here, but you get the fruits on there with the yellowish creamy custard. This would do wonderful with it. Almost like pouring chocolate over a dessert, strawberries or raspberries, without being cloyingly sweet like some cream stouts or milk stouts would be. Really nice, guys. Listen, grade-wise, I gave the Julius an A+. I got to give this A+ too. Overall drinkability, A+, if not better. I really wouldn't bring it down at all. It's really not, there's a lot of different stouts. If you're expecting a milk stout, this is not it. It's American porter. And again, I'm saying stout. It's a porter, but there is some obviously overlap in the flavor components between stout and porter. So if I mistakenly spoke about stout before for this beer, it's not a stout, but there is some gray area, and stouts a lot of times you use a little more roasted barley, blah, 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 blah. Okay, but this is really outstanding. And there's a nice up front. It's not astringency. There's a nice medium to medium high carbonation. Then it mellows out. You get all that chocolate, dark chocolate, all the roast that I explained, the nuts, even like a little bit, like I said, toffee, maybe a touch of caramel. And then it dries out a little bit. So anyway, guys, today's beer dissection from Treehouse Brewing Company, the Catharsis, which I'm sure I've had this popping over my shoulder. Their porter, not a stout, it's a porter, but there are certain similarities to the flavor components to it. I would highly recommend this, without a doubt. It's probably one of the better porters I've had over the last several months. All right, and it's very fresh. I think my other one was just canned on the 27th of September. I'm filming this in like October, what is today? Like the 3rd, 4th of October. So like a week, not even a week ago that was canned. All right, so anyway, guys, so next beer dissection, beer video in general, have a great day. Take care, bye-bye.